Hello and welcome to The Mohit Show. In this video, I'll be covering posts from r/detrans, a well-moderated subreddit for people questioning, desisting, or detransitioning. On to this video's first post, titled, It's Okay to be Gender Non-Conforming. This is by a detransitioned male. I know most of the veterans here know it already, but I just want to state it. Also, a lot of normal people are gender non-conforming, just in more accepted ways. Some men have long hair. Some women like button-up shirts. We don't think about it because those gender non-conforming behaviors have been normalized. And hopefully others will too. If people try to confuse you or worse, shove their poorly translated Bible verses down your throat, remember, gender norms are largely based on culture and time period, especially when it comes to fashion. Sexism is saying men must be masculine, but sexism is also saying masculinity makes you a man. From the comments, a desisted female says yes to everything you said, referencing this line on sexism. This is why I will always think transgenderism is inherently sexist. It promotes both of those ideas. Next comment by a desisted female, referring to the line where they talk about the normalized behaviors. I agree with this. When I was trans, I had this weird state of mind where I felt like society was imposing these rigorous rules on me because I was female. But in reality, society is much more lenient than we sometimes think. I would be seen as a girl even when I was trying to pass. And I knew trans women that had been on HRT and wore dresses and would still be casually called he without people meaning to insult them. At least to me, I see that as a sign that nowadays society is a lot more accepting of nonconformity than we can be led to believe. And referencing the line about sexism and masculinity, I also love that you said this. I think in general, perpetuating ideas like men equals masculine and masculinity equals man sucks. Thanks for making this post. Next post, titled, Tired of Living with Loss. This is by a detransitioned female. I don't really want to do this anymore. I'm staying alive for my mom, but I miss myself. I'm so mad and so sad. I can't even cry. Because I sound awful, I can't even grieve right. This has carved a piece out of my heart. I'm never going to sing or laugh like I did again. I can't believe I had to be a casualty. I know it's an overused line, but all I can think is, why me? I don't want to live to save others. I don't want to feel horrible for the rest of my life. I don't want to feel better either. I want the people who did this to see my effing face on the news. They wouldn't be able to stand feeling like I have for months for a single day. I'm so tired of being strong. The real me is trapped inside my body. My old voice feels like a phantom limb. I go to sing a high note like I used to, and I want to rip myself to shreds when it comes out completely disconnected from my voice. Why did I do this? Why did I deserve this? Now the next post, titled More Regret Blues. This is also by a detransitioned female. Sometimes I feel so sad that I did this to myself. I dealt with a lot of grief and loss and regret. Some days I wake up so confused and full of dread like I can't believe I did this to myself. It's darkest feeling because I know I can never go back. My nipples have been hurting a lot lately, 3 years post-op. But it just makes me sad for what I lost and how I used to feel like a whole person. I used to have a continuous range of sensation that now just stops at my chest. I had my breasts removed before I had sex, before I had a baby and could nurse it, before I even turned 20. I feel so sad I don't know what to do with it all sometimes. This is my life now, and I just have to move on. I don't feel desexed and less of a woman, but I feel like less of a human too. I don't just feel desexed, sorry. I'm lucky I found a partner that is accepting of my body and my past, but I still feel so different than the person I was before. I found some old videos of myself from before I started tea in high school. My voice was so sweet, and now it's gravelly and deep. Despite these random flare ups of sadness, I think I'm a pretty happy person. I share an exciting and passionate relationship with my boyfriend, have a great job doing things I'm passionate about, and have a lot to look forward to over the next year. I just don't know. I just still feel sadness for what I did to myself, and I feel full of dread knowing I've forever altered myself and future and can never go back. Sometimes I wonder if there will ever be justice for people like us who were still children and teens when this happened to us. And if so, what would that even look like? Anyway, the pain never ends, I guess. I guess I'll learn to cope with it all. Next post, titled Body Vent. I used to look in this mirror to check my beard when I went to shower or change or something. And I'd have this moment of just being like, nice, I look handsome. It never occurred to me that it was a privilege I could lose. Now, whenever I catch sight of myself in the mirror, I have this moment where I feel like, wait, what the F? What is that? Next post, titled, Just a Bad Meme I Made. Me, transition. Me, years later, realized I'm not trans. And from Windows XP, task failed successfully. You can press OK or X out of the window. Now on to the next post, titled, How did this even happen? This is by someone questioning their own gender transition. I've been questioning my decisions for a while now, trying to piece together how I actually got here, transitioning that is. Was it from TVs, school stuff? Or did I just go along with the gender stuff and got myself all confused? How did I think my brain was somehow male when it's part of my female body? How was I so sure that sex wasn't real? I hate myself for doing this, and I hate myself for never questioning until now. Have any of you ever got to the bottom of why you ended up feeling trans in the first place? I just want to feel less stupid for going this path. From the comments, a detrans female comments, I've been detransitioning for almost a year now and questioned my decision to transition for a long while before that. Every single day I still ponder where I went wrong. The consensus that I have come to is that my dysphoria was onset due to intrusive thoughts. I began transitioning around age 15, and while I was never entirely confident as a kid, I never had any discomfort surrounding my gender until I was exposed to the transgender community. It was only then that I suddenly started hating my breasts, my voice, my feminine face, etc. I genuinely think that I tricked myself into believing that I hated my female body. I'd do anything to go back in time and tell her that she's perfect and that everything will work out, and that she needs cognitive behavioral therapy, lol. You are not at all stupid for taking the path you took. Unfortunately, as happens. Frowny face. And E-trans male comments. Do not despair. We all make wrong turns or go too far in one direction. Sadly, you are often led astray by others. Now you realize the best person to decide where to go is you. Tell us more about where you are. And the original poster comments, I socially transitioned around 11, and I started binding around 13. I went on T just about 6 weeks ago, I'm 18 now. But I'm just now wondering how I'll be on this forever, and I shouldn't be a medical patient forever, and that maybe I'm just fine the way I am now. I'm kind of getting sick of being so focused on myself all the time. When I think of people I've admired over the years, it's always been people who just get on with life even when things seem ass. My grandmother's generation did not spend half this much time fretting about what I fret about. I want to stop obsessing about myself and my appearance. When I go places now and see forms with preferred pronouns or the ask your gender of SAAB, I get so angry and how these lies are everywhere. I'm angry at my school for teaching me crap, and angry at that my parents let me just be on my phone and internet all the time. Now, someone who's desisted comments, don't feel stupid. Our cultures can make us think and believe crazy things. There are countries where women mutilate their daughters' genitals. They think it's right because they were raised that way and their culture believes it. I also look back and laugh at all the contradictions and huge cope. It's just sad it's still such a large part, dominant part of our culture. But it also makes sense because it preys on some of the most human things of all issues with sex, with gender roles, stereotypes, things we can't control, other people's perceptions of us, and our own. It's even more complex than that. It's so complex I could fill a whole book with all the different angles. But yeah, don't feel bad. And the detrans male comments, I did. I really dug in deep and decoded the source, and it's complex and different for everyone. For me, it was being medicated and exposed to ideas as a teen, having grown up religious and a family support system that ghosted me over 20 years. There's more, but this is why I think mandatory psychotherapy for 1 year at least could help people avoid the damage we all now face. And the desisted female replies to that, do you mind if I DM you? I think our experiences might be similar. I'm interested in your lack of family support and how they ghosted you. Did they black sheep you from early on in your life like mine? All I ever wanted was for my parents to want me. It's stupid that as an adult I was still desperate for my parents' love to the extent that I thought becoming their son would solve all the issues with them. It made everything worse and highlighted that it was never my sex that was at fault. And a D-trans male replies to that. I was raised Mormon from birth from two parents who were also raised Mormon from birth. I grew up with a very narrow worldview, and when I started to show more signs of coping problems and social problems, coupled with all of the other things that they should have noticed, they diagnosed me bipolar disorder instead of autism spectrum, which I was later diagnosed as when I was 36. My grandmother had a psychiatrist who misdiagnosed her bipolar and had her on so many medications that she couldn't work as an LVN, and she couldn't function anymore and laid in bed all day. My family took me to the same psychiatrist who misdiagnosed me with bipolar as well. I started to end up in mental hospitals. I was on 900 to 1,200 milligrams of lithium a day, with stomach problems from vomiting, pain loss of my personality, and I was protesting it, which only got me in worse trouble. I couldn't cope, so I started masking and going into music and going in my own head. In 2011, my mom died of stage 4 cancer, and I started transitioning just after my grandfather died in 2013 of stage 3 cancer. I think it's stage 4 when you, or is it stage 5 when you die? So I guess I'll get to that stage. Anyways, my hormones started on May 15th, 2014. I spent the next 6 years on hormones, getting electrolysis, getting breast surgery, doing consultations for bottom surgery, and I was in the medical field as an x ray tech and medical assistant, and I was shifting my physics teaching degree towards pre med. I took the MCAT and applied to medical school. And while I didn't get in that year, I did start developing signs of Parkinson's disease, which weren't diagnosed until 2018. My entire family has ghosted me because they think I'm this wild mania person. Instead of saying I just have social problems and I'm really withdrawn, and I have very particular interests and I have a strong proclivity towards sensory stimuli, autism spectrum has a lot of overlapping comorbidities with like OCD and ADD. So it really should have been no surprise with me talking later, walking on my toes, spinning in circles, banging my head to sleep, rocking, taking everything out of the fridge and putting it on the kitchen table when I was 2 years old, trying to walk places instead of taking the bus or the car because I thought I knew how to get there. There were plenty of signs. They were they just were all naive. And now I'm just too unrelatable for any of them to contact anymore. My sister hasn't talked to me in over a year. I only have like one grandma who cares, and she's in a convalescent home with Parkinson's disease in California. And another comment from a desisted female replying to this comment right here. There are many similarities and some differences. I wasn't raised especially religious, but religious enough that people wanted gender conforming heterosexual children because they saw anything else as inferior and a mental health problem that could be corrected by teaching children how to perform their gender role. I don't have ASD, but I have PTSD from ongoing CSA, and the behavioral symptoms are very similar. Like you, this made me appear wild and unpredictable, especially as a child, and do bizarre things that got me harsh punishment and labeled all sorts of things. Typical PTSD reactions can appear over the top to people without PTSD. People around me knew about CSA, but I didn't get treatment or sympathy, and I was unreasonably punished. So, on top of the PTSD, I had DV, which meant I developed CPTSD and completely didn't trust authority figures. Now, on to the next post, titled Thoughts on Pronouns. This is by someone who's questioning their own gender transition. Since my first post on here went well, how do you all feel about the culture surrounding pronouns? Personally, I, out as FTM but planning to desist, am asked my pronouns a lot. What are your pronouns is a common question I get. From adults, I've noticed I get read as a younger, prepubescent male, but others in high school can tell I'm female at birth. I present very androgynous, but I'm mostly read as they, them, which kind of annoys me. I feel like even though I'm out as trans, people don't believe I'm a guy, they just force the use of preferred pronouns to be nice. I'm not planning to ever come out as desisted. I will just move on because I don't want the S I will get from the people around me. I don't want the trans kids to tell me that I never had dysphoria when I struggled throughout my teens. At this point, I don't care what pronouns people use to describe me. They're just words. And they don't change what I physically am and what body parts I have. They also do not change how I see myself, so I don't actually care what pronouns are used. From the comments, detrans female comments, the pronoun concept is to step on eggshells to baby someone. Sorry, but it's true. Not sorry, it's harsh. But we really need to saddle up and realize that there's more to life than crying about hating our body or gender. At the end of the day, you do you, but don't expect everyone to follow suit. Someone who's desisted comments, I hate the current culture on pronouns. Demanding someone to address you in a certain way is, and always will be, narcissistic as F. I'm in the same boat as you are. I stopped caring about pronouns or how people address me and never really got into the they-them pronoun culture, even if I'm androgynous presenting. I don't care if they use it on me though, but I won't go around policing people if they misgender me and will only correct them if the situation calls for correction, for example, dealing with documents. And a detrans female comments on the post, it's virtue signaling and doesn't mean a thing. I remember when I had shaved hair, like 3mm stubble, and looked androgynous. I'd suddenly get asked my pronouns all the time, as if the don't assume gender mantra is only true when assigned female at birth people don't look stereotypically feminine, which kind of implies that masculine / androgynous / butch women are trans or can't be women, and thus just reinforces sexist gender stereotypes. When I had longer hair again, nobody ever asked me my pronouns, lol. This says it all. And the desisted female replies to that, this is such a great point and a spot-on observation. The very second someone does not appear traditionally female, the assumption is that they are trans. I still struggle with it, and I have been desisted for some time now. I have to remind myself that some women are naturally more androgynous or masculine looking at the end of the day. They are still women. This ideology has really done a number on me. I wonder how long it'll take for me to recover from these insidious beliefs. A detrans female comments, definitely think it's absurd that large parts of Western society change to cater a very small group of people. I actually think it's offensive in some situations. For example, I worked at a hip grocery store for a while and was hired at the same time as 2 other women. I was the only person people would ask, oh, what are your pronouns? Okay, so instead of me being a grown adult, capable of having the agency to be myself and correct or tell other people in the case they call me by he or they, You assume my feelings will be hurt beyond all repair and want to respectfully ask me first. Great. Except people just do it in normal conversations now and don't realize by asking me offhand while we're in the middle of the store around employees and customers alike that they have now in fact outed me as potentially being something different than how I present myself to the world. In this way, I think it backfires big time. If you were to ask and truly be respectful, why not have the awareness of the implication as well as the other person's privacy to ask them in private? And the desisted female replies to this. At my old cashiering job, I was the only worker a young hip assigned female at birth coworker asked my pronouns for simply because I was assigned female at birth and short hair. It was humiliating to be singled out publicly, and even though I know it wasn't their intention, it makes it feel like there's something wrong with you and how you dress/act. And the detrans female replies to that, because that's the point. Asking for pronouns is how our society has shifted to a new modern form of conservative gender policing. A detrans female comments, funny. When I was trans, being asked the pronoun question was awful because then it told me that I don't pass. A lot of trans people feel the same way about it. Just taking context clues, and if you use the wrong pronoun, the other person can politely correct you. And the detrans female comments, because the whole point of asking for pronouns is a cultural shift meant to root out homosexuals and other deviants in a public way under the guise of inclusion and politeness. It's just a modern homophobia. Our desisted female comments on the original post. Yeah, that asking pronoun stuff is in fact a futile charade right now. I honestly think it won't solve any issues, but instead brings all kinds of new dumb insecurities and interpersonal S. The always ask pronouns crew suggests we just make it a new cultural habit to ask everyone every time, so no one is othered. The big problem is that it will likely never take off, as it's too complicated and mostly impractical in everyday life. Most people go with the pronouns you'd assume, so why would anyone bother asking a question if it's self-answering in like 99.5% of cases? Even if you mean well and start asking, like as a business owner to your clients, you'll run into new issues and probably end up offending more people than before. Damn, did he just imply I look weird or what? Does he make fun of me? For people with hormone disbalances and other body issues, this might be even worse and outright humiliating, as you'd point out their perceived bodily flaws. This would likely be similar for detransitioners or people who present more androgynous. Also, it doesn't help all trans/non-binary people. For example, those who worked hard to pass might be feeling clocked and exposed. There are also trans or non-binary people who want to go stealth or are still figuring out, and they might feel exposed or forced by such questions. That said, I would personally love to have That said, I would personally love to just have one single gender blind pronoun, like they or whatever, to be used for each and every person no matter their gender. It would do away with all the misgendering issues while being much easier and more practical than asking and remembering individuals' variance/grammar every time. But as I said in the first point, I wonder if this can even happen, as most people probably won't ever care enough. Don't know. In any case, it'll be something at the far end of a long rocky road. This is a female comments on the original post. It's virtue signaling. And it's also explicitly telling someone to their face that they don't pass. Now on to the next post, titled, I cancelled my top surgery consultation. So much of the advice from my last post was for me to cancel the appointment. I've done just now. I am quite shaken but relieved in a way. So thank you for your advice on it. I think the money I had for surgery is best used on therapy at this time. I'm a girl, I just have to get used to saying that. I'm still hesitant to tell my family and friends. I'm nervous and I don't know what to do, and also how do I be a girl again? I do very much look like a man, so I can't just walk into women's clothes shops. Also, I've been on T for 10 months. How do I quit it straight away, or do I need to keep taking it or start taking E or something? From the comments, someone who's D-trans comments, Good job canceling the appointment. I know exactly how awkward and jarring and scary it can feel because I found this Reddit days before my hysterectomy consultations, which I cancelled and I'm so endlessly grateful for. I took tea over 5 years, much more than that, but I stopped counting after 5 years as it lost the feeling of importance, and quit cold turkey with no side effects. However, it's a highly individual thing, and some people swear by gradually lowering the dose to prevent shock, where other people say this causes menopausal problems which could be avoided if the body were allowed to heal on its own. Personally, I was just lazy and it was easier to not do anything, lol. You do not need estrogen unless you have had a hysterectomy and removed your ovaries. And I would not advise taking if you have ovaries because you may confuse your body more and prevent it from functioning properly by itself. Any problems you face in the next 6 months can be documented and then taken to a gynecologist to assess what's the best course of action. As for presentation, you do not have to suddenly start wearing pink or dresses or wearing makeup. I mean, you can if you want to, but many of us are in this position because we hated feeling forced into that in the first place, as if putting on a dress makes someone female, lol. How you feel how you feel most comfortable? That's fine. Wear men's hoodies if they're comfy. Wear women's leggings if they're comfy. Mix and match and do whatever you want. Remember, these are early days and it's perfectly fine to stay in touch with tomboy vibes. Some women grow their hair out, others keep it short, and there's no correct way to be a girl or a woman. You're simply one by unavoidable birthright. Thank you for making your health a priority. Future you is so grateful. And if you have not checked out the Discord server, it is very comfortable. The detrans female comments. Thank you for going in depth about your experience. Yes, I feel as well like the sub has saved me in a way. I hear people talk such horrible things about, but my experience, everyone like yourself has been respectful and very helpful to me. Thanks for your advice on tea as well. I'm going to continue and lower the doses until I stop, as others have suggested. And I'll have to make a Discord account as that sounds worth checking out. Desisted male comments. After very nearly starting my boyfriend talked me down. What became very helpful for me was to stop thinking so much about how I need others to see me and more about how I'd like to see myself. And the detrans female comments, congratulations. To stop tea, it's best to talk to your doctor about how to do it the safest way for you. Personally, I gradually lowered my dose over 4 weeks, until my last dose was a bit less than half of what my regular dose used to be. You don't need new clothes. Be a girl again, just be yourself. You can keep wearing your men's clothes. If you do want new clothes, but you're embarrassed about walking into a women's clothing store, you could wait until your face and body have re-feminized after stopping tea to get new clothing. And the original poster says, thanks, smiley face. I will wait until my body is more femme again before I got into women's shops again. I like to try the fashion I was thinking looked cute on girl when I was sort of in denial about this, lol. And now on to today's last post. Thank you for saving me. This is by someone who's questioning their own gender transition. Hi, I know I haven't posted much here, but for the past 2 days I've been reading all your posts and comments. I'm sorry for the pain that most of you had to go through. I know it couldn't have been easy. Still, with those posts, you might have saved me from making the worst decision of my life. So I'm a man who has always loved feminine clothing, skirts and dresses. It started out as a sexual kink back when I was 13. However, since 2 years back, things changed. I started wearing those when I'm just chilling out my room or sleeping. Even started wearing women's undies to work. Around the same time, I developed a certain strange feeling whenever I watched female pop idols. I knew that I idolized them so much to a point that I wanted to be them, at least physically. Somewhere along the line, I started questioning, am I actually a trans woman? About 6 months ago, I decided to meet a psychiatrist, told them that I was really confused and that I may be gender fluid or a trans woman. At the end of the session, they suggested HRT as an option. I don't blame them entirely, as I've been told that doctors often do feel obligated to do so. I went back and did some research on the effects. It scared me a little. I didn't want to lose my sex drive or lose my genitals functionality, and so I held myself back to give me some time to think about it first. About a month ago, I started watching a lot of trans content creators and joined a bunch of trans community here on Reddit. I would wear makeup and post pictures of myself in feminine clothing. Not gonna lie, it felt good to receive compliments on how pretty I was, even though I knew most of them were just being nice. The others would post on how happy they were after HRT, and I was convinced that I too would be happy. I knew I didn't have a feminine face, but I convinced myself that I could always get a plastic surgery. Coming from a conservative family, I knew that the parents I loved would be disappointed, but I convinced myself that I could always cut off all ties and move elsewhere. I convinced myself that I was a trans woman. Last night, while showering, I sat down and cried to myself, saying, "What the F am I even thinking?" I decided to check the subreddit, and going through your posts, it made me realize that I wasn't really thinking straight. There's no logic to any of it. I don't have to be a woman to have feminine traits. I don't have to be a woman to dress femininely. Heck, I might even start cosplaying female character as a man. To be honest, I still do have a bit of dysphoria. Maybe it'll go away with time. Maybe I have to live with it the rest of my life. But I'm leaving this post here as a reminder to myself that HRT, transitioning, they aren't the only option. Sorry for the long post, but I felt I needed to let this out. Again, thank you all. Now from the comments. Someone who's detrans comments, "This is beautiful. I think this is the answer most people are actually looking for. Very happy to see this." A detrans male comments, "It's scary how close your story sounds to mine. It sounds like yours will have a better ending though. I think it's a very good idea that you have, wanting to keep experimenting with non-medical options. I love that when I was still comfortable with it, I'd put money on you being autogynephilic, but I won't push it on you just because you don't need any more of that after your experience with trans affirmation. I just want to say you're being very mature about this, and I hope you're able to move forward with a new sense of security in expressing yourself in a feminine way, when and how you choose." A desisted female comments, "You got to that realization really quickly. It took me so much longer. I'm only now at the point of what the F was I even thinking? Getting compliments on my appearance was really euphoric too, because they were compliments and I don't know about you, but as a girl/woman, I never got compliments because of so many reasons probably unique to my situation. Just being told I looked good was enough, and just finding a group of cool people that wanted me to be a part of them was intoxicating. Maybe you also got told this as a man, but I expect you got the opposite. But I got told you can do that as a girl/woman a lot. I grew to despise it because I'm not an idiot. I know the rules of society mean I can't really do that as a girl/woman because otherwise it wouldn't need saying. Usually it was dressing in a masculine style or doing a masculine hobby/career. As a woman and as a man, there are limits to what society will allow before it decides you're too non-conforming and therefore a danger to the fabric of the community." The original poster comments, haha, no, comments, "I guess I was kind of lucky to have this inner voice thing hold me back, haha. I think we all naturally want a sense of belonging, and the trans community, they're really good at providing it. I'll give them that. I mean, having support is good, but casually advising people to medically transition is a bit wrong. And I know I'm guilty of that too. And yeah, sometimes I think that we as a society tries to link too many things to sex/gender when it really doesn't have to. Some of those things have been deeply rooted in our brains." As someone who's desisted comments, "It wouldn't feel so much like dodging a bullet if it wasn't for all the common misinformation, lies, and deception built around synthetic hormones and what they will do to someone. The risk/reward assessment stacks up quite differently once you know everything you should. Regardless, OP, I'm glad you got shaken up enough to look for opposing views before making a decision. And that sort of behavior and mindset will save you from a lot of trouble in life, so keep it up. Wishing you the best." Someone else who's desisted comments, "Hell yeah, don't let gender roles or stereotypes define you. Wear skirts, wear makeup, love female pop idols, be friends with women, cosplay female characters, have whatever kink you want in the bedroom, enjoy being called pretty. Any combination of masculine or feminine traits is natural. None of these stereotypes determine if we're a man or a woman, because those words have different meanings, very basic and fundamental meaning in reality. It's actually not that uncommon to admire the opposite sex, or be attracted to the opposite sex, so much that you want to be them. It reminds me of creating an ideal partner in one's mind, like surrounding yourself with them. Doesn't help when one is also G and C, gender non-conforming, because then the confirmation bias comes in. I'm glad your moments of clarity didn't rinse down the drain too. A lot of people shuck them off because there's a lot of bonuses to IDing as trans. Community, oppression status, victim status, pursuing fantasy of leaving your life behind and becoming a new person. I'm glad you're pursuing being yourself in a healthy and grounded way. There are no sex locked clothing or behaviors, etc. Good luck. And that brings us to the end. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to support these videos. Thank you so much again for watching, and please have a good day.